Don't be one of those who are rejecting him. Thousands are doing it. Millions are doing it. They know about him. They don't want any part of him. And so this parable is teaching who's not going to be there, those who reject his invitation. And it's telling who's going to be there. And a lot of religious people aren't going to be there. They don't want to be there. They don't really have any love for Jesus. They're just Pharisees in Christian clothing. And this is a point. Invited is not included. Some people just think, oh, John 3:16, whoever will believe in Christ will be saved. So I got to, whoever will, God's good. I don't have to think about it. That's pretty dangerous. So God the Father and Jesus Christ are not really important to a lot of people. What's important to them? I'll tell you what, not necessarily sin, possessions. I bought some land, I got to go see it. Business. I got 5 yoke oxen, I got to go see him. Family. I've married a wife, I can't come. There's nothing wrong with any of those things, right? But if those things keep you back from Christ, I can't come to Christ because my husband won't like it, or my wife won't like it, or my family won't like it. Or I don't have time for that stuff. I've got these possessions I've got to be occupied with, or this business. They're worshiping the creature rather than the creator. And that's what Romans 1 says the whole Gentile world's doing. And that's why it says, compel them to come in. Compel them to come in. Unfortunately, that word compel them to come in, I'm looking now down in verse 23. This has a very terrible past. Augustine was one of the great church fathers, but boy, his theology also led him to a very serious error. He actually used compel them to come in as a reason for the Catholic Church to kill and prosecute and persecute the Donatists who didn't want to be part of it. He used this text. And the Inquisition would use this text to put people on the rack and force them to confess Christ. Jews and other unbelievers and stuff. That is not what Jesus meant when he said, compel them to come in. It's not what he meant. He didn't say, get a gun, stick it to somebody's head and say, are you ready to die for Jesus? He's not saying that. Use a sword or spear or forcible activity, twist their arm, get them in a headlock and say, I'm not going to let you go till you get saved. No. What compel them to come in means is forcible pleadings and arguments. It's verbal. By the way, if you look in the different Greek texts, it can refer to persecution and compelling people in a wrong way. That's not what this is talking about at all. These people are servants, not soldiers, not policemen. They're compelling with arguments and love to people who think they would never be wanted. So here we have the Lord's ability to make people uncomfortable. We have the Lord's activity to make people acceptable. He's sending people out to unacceptable people to let them know they can be accepted. And the Lord's authority to hold people accountable. That's the third point. Verse 24, I say that none of those men who were bidden will taste of my supper. There's responsibility here, then and now. How shall we escape if we neglect so great salvation? What Hebrews says. And Jonathan Edwards says, how can you expect to dwell with God forever if you so neglect and forsake him here? So it's not just the Jewish Pharisees that have a problem. It's people today have the same problem. People today misidentify the problem. don't they? These horrible events that have happened this week, people say guns are the problem. Well, before guns, you had clubs and you had knives. And I know we got a gun culture, and I understand that in America, but I saw something very interesting. They said terrorists flew airplanes into buildings and killed all kinds of people, and we don't ban airplanes. We secure the cockpit. We try to secure the cabin, but we don't ban airplanes. We still fly airplanes. What's the real problem? This is kind of important. I could care less where you are about the gun issue or any of those things. Just making a point. People are the problem. People. And people are the problem because sin is the problem. Sin is the problem. That is the problem. The problem is not social. The social problems come from spiritual problems. Racial problems come from spiritual problems. People who are racist have a spiritual problem. And there are social problems, and they need to be addressed. I'm not saying they shouldn't be. I'm simply saying we got to do what Jesus did in this text, the problem behind the problem. It's like the guy with the demon. That's why I'm a pastor. I learned the real problem is spiritual for me and for everyone else. C.S. Lewis said, Jesus did not say, go into all the world and tell them they're all quite right. That's not the program. It's the maimed and the poor and the blind. We're all broken. Compel them to come in, overcome their revulsion, overcome their reticency. Have you ever heard people say, God wouldn't want me coming to church. God wouldn't want me. He would not after who I am and what I've done. People aren't interested in God because they think God's not interested in them. But God is interested. He loves you more than you love yourself. And so, may God help us to hear our text this morning. So compel means to insist. Compel means to urge. And it doesn't mean you try to out-argue someone. It simply says it's a feast. You're invited. You are welcome. You need to receive this invitation. Sometimes we just give up on people, don't we? You don't want to come? Too bad for you. There is a certain insistence of the urgency. Nothing is more important for anyone in this room, anyone hearing my voice, anyone in this world, than being saved. Nothing. Your family's not more important. Your business is not more important. Your hobbies aren't more important. The political issues of the day are not more important. I'm concerned about the church. I think we get too excited about politics. I really don't like that. That's not good. Most people think, oh, you conservative people, you're anti this and you're anti this and you're pro this. And they just identify us by our politics. That should not be. We're here to give the invitation to the feast. God forgive us. Yes, we should be informed on how we vote, but to get overoccupied with politics is a big sin.